Hello there, I am Tigster2005 of the Prequelgang, and welcome to another episode of Tigster Talks, the show where I talk about stuff by myself. So, last night I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and I really enjoyed this movie. Now, on the one hand, this could be because the previous movie I watched was Captain America the Winter Soldier, and I didn't like it. But no, dude, this movie, I watched it, and I must have been, like, smiling pretty much the whole time. It was so fun to watch. Alright, so, first of all, spoilers, of course, I shouldn't have to say this. Second of all, here's the rest of the video, I guess. So one thing that I want to say is that, I remember talking to Kenny about this movie, before I watched it, and he says that he actually remembers watching this movie in theaters. So, yeah, there's that. Kenny watched Guardians of the Galaxy in theaters when it came out in 2014, and we were like 9. So, yeah. Now, he didn't specify whether this was the only MCU movie he watched in theaters, or if this just happens to be one that he remembers watching in theaters, but he watched it in theaters. That's something. I of course watched it on Disney Plus. So, yeah. So let's see. What can I say about this movie? Well, I really liked the space setting. I think it was definitely it was clearly, like, heavily inspired by, like, Star Wars, but at the same time it was like a Star Wars movie that wasn't a Star Wars movie, if that makes any sense. Like, the main character, Peter Quill, his mother passed away when he was very young, and then he was captured by aliens and taken to another part of the galaxy, where he was then basically a criminal and outlaw who like stole things to make some money, and like sell them. And one of the things that he stole was this orb which belonged to a guy named Ronan. Now this Ronan person, he was like basically he's the main villain of this movie. Well, it's Ronan, and then there's also Thanos, who, if I recall correctly, from what I hear, he appears in like Infinity War and stuff. But I'll get to that when I get to that. But for the purposes of this movie, Ronan is basically the main villain. He, like, killed a whole bunch of people, and basically, Ronan bad, he has this orb, which is an important thing, and, yeah, Peter Quill, like, basically he meets up with some other characters, who are all, like, they're entertaining to watch. Some standouts are, of course, Groot. I am Groot. That's the one thing he says. And there's this talking raccoon named Rocket. He's pretty cool, I guess. And then, yeah, all the characters, they're fun to watch, and the way they bounce off each other, it's kind of like the Avengers in some ways, except I feel like, in some ways the Avengers did it better because a lot of these characters had, like, development from previous movies, and these characters, the first time they appear is in this movie where they're introduced, so we don't get a whole lot of introduction to them, but what is here, it's enough to satisfy, and they did a good, the people who made this movie, they did a good job of, you know, making them likable, and like, you can tell why they're working together. Like, they have this goal, and they kind of have to work together, but then they actually end up becoming friends along the way. So, yeah, that's a really good plot point in my opinion. And let's see. Oh, right. At the end of the in the mid-credits scene of Thor: The Dark World, there was a scene where there's this room, there's this collector dude who mentions Infinity Stones, and apparently inside the orb that Quill collected at the beginning, there was an Infinity Stone, and that's what Ronan was planning to use. And yeah, basically Infinity Stone's like this very powerful thing that's basically it's bad if it falls into the wrong hands. That's basically what it amounts to. Um, yeah. So a lot of the all of the space battle scenes a lot of it kind of reminds me of like Star Wars Revenge of the Sith's opening scene, like where they're kind of like flying around shooting each other, and then it's fun. This whole thing, it's just a really fun movie to watch. And yeah, I think the way it handled like the space setting, like it looks really good. And of course, it looks really good. And of course, it's helped by the fact that they don't shake the camera too much. I shouldn't have to praise a movie for this, but they don't shake the camera. Finally, you know? Now, okay, yeah, Winter Soldier was like one movie out of a lot of movies, but that was the last one I watched. Going from that shaky cam fest to this, like, it's night and day, guys. Like, that movie looked kind of dull and uninteresting, and the shaky cam just made it worse. But this movie, like all of these bright, colorful environments and, you know, actual good camera work, it's just, it just works. I wonder if they did that intentionally, like releasing a bad-looking movie and then a good-looking movie right afterwards. Then again, given how popular Winter Soldier actually is, I'm kind of in the minority of people who, like, you know, say that it's not a good movie. A lot of people really like it, but a lot of people do really like Guardians of the Galaxy. This seems to be a pretty popular MCU movie. So, yeah. I don't know. And another thing is the soundtrack of this movie. That's kind of a thing that I hear being talked about, is like all of these songs that like sound pretty old, and like the whole thing with like the vocal themes in this movie, because yes, there are vocal themes with like lyrics and stuff. Basically, Peter's mother gave him this cassette tape, and I think that was like a portable tape player that he could carry around with him, and headphones and stuff, and you could listen to all of these songs that apparently his mother liked when she was like in her youth. So yeah, this was like it was a pretty good collection of songs, if I'm being honest. Like, and it seems to like they seem to pretty much fit the situations. Like the opening scene, with that song where Peter's just kind of dancing along and kind of on his way to collect the orb, but he's kind of having fun along the way. The song that was playing there, that was just it worked. I really liked it. I feel like the only song that I found kind of annoying, the one that I didn't like, is Cherry Bomb. That was like, I think that might have been what it was called. They definitely said that a lot. It's like Cherry Bomb and all. I didn't like that. Like, no, the instrumental was fine. It fit the situation that it was placed in really well, but the vocals were just kind of annoying. But that's just me though. The one at the end though, the one at the end of the movie, that was good. I haven't really heard any of these songs before because, well, obviously I haven't seen this movie before, so I don't really know what any of them are called. So yeah, so good music, and yeah, the whole thing with like all of these characters becoming friends, I found that plot point, like, I liked it. I enjoyed watching it, and you know, it's fun to actually watch a movie that isn't I know I'm really like hating on Captain America a lot in this video, even though this video is about Guardians of the Galaxy, but I just I really didn't like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I'm sorry. It just left a bad taste in my mouth. And then watching this movie right after that movie, so good. Yeah. And I feel like this movie, it feels sort of disconnected from the rest of the MCU, except for the only way that you can really tell that it's in any way connected to any of the movies is the post-credit scene, not the mid-credit scene of Thor: The Dark World, because like there's this collector dude and the Infinity Stones, those that were mentioned here. So yeah, there's that. So I don't know if this really ties into anything, but oh wait, that's right. Also Thanos, because he was in the mid-credits scene of the Avengers. Yeah, that's that also connects this movie to the rest of the MCU. But overall, it feels like its own separate sort of thing. It definitely didn't feel as connected to the rest of the MCU as something like I mentioned that Thor, the first one, and also the second one, of course, they both felt connected to the rest of the MCU, because like especially in the first Thor, like Shield was there and all of that, which were in Iron Man 2, so it felt connected to that in a lot of ways, but it also felt like it was expanding the universe of Marvel. Guardians of the Galaxy, it didn't feel like it was expanding the universe in the same way. Like what Thor did was it brought this character from another part of this universe to like Earth, so that like you can see how they're connected. But you know, Guardians of the Galaxy basically takes place out in space in a very distant part. It doesn't take place on Earth like ever. Like the only part of the movie that takes place on Earth is like the very beginning scene of the movie. Everything else just takes place in like distant part of the galaxy where it's like feels mostly pretty disconnected, which that's fine. I kind of like that. I feel like this is like it gives this movie its own identity, while also you can see how indeed it is part of the MCU. So yeah, I think maybe this is like a really good just standalone movie. Like if you were to watch like exactly one MCU movie, then this one it's good. Like this is probably a good one to watch if you were to only watch one, because like some of the other movies that like I really enjoyed, like the two Thor movies and the Avengers, those were amazing movies, of course, but they expected you to like know some things that were explained in some of the other movies. Guardians doesn't really expect you to know anything. It's just here are the characters, here's the plot, now go. And then it works from there, and again, it just works. It really does. So yeah, there if you want to watch a really fantastic movie that doesn't expect you to know anything else about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then you know the choice is either the first Iron Man, because that's literally the first one. They had literally nothing to go off of when designing, well, of course the comics, but I'm only counting the actual movies here. Like Iron Man, that was like the first MCU movie that wasn't really based on anything that came before. But this movie, there are some things that came before, and again, they do have like Thanos and Infinity Stones, which are mentioned in the mid-credits scenes of the Avengers and Thor: The Dark World, respectively. But other than that, they're introduced pretty well, even in this movie on its own. So, if you just want to watch this movie, but you don't want to have to catch up with anything, you can totally do that. You can watch this movie, even if you know nothing about Marvel, and you wouldn't be confused, like, at all. Like, of course I loved watching The Avengers, but if I hadn't known who any of these characters were before watching it, I probably would have been at least a little confused as to what was happening. But because I watched the previous 5 movies before watching The Avengers, I basically understood, like, the full plot of it. Thor, something similar. If I hadn't watched Iron Man 2 before watching Thor, then I'd have been like, what is this SHIELD organization? What's going on here? And Thor: The Dark World, something similar. If I hadn't watched Thor and the Avengers, I would have been like, what is any of this? What? I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Okay. But no, Guardians, again, just watch it. You don't even have to watch anything else. Just watch it. It's a fun movie. It is really good. And, well, then again, I'm telling you to watch this movie, but if you're watching this video, then you're probably already familiar with this movie because I warned you about spoilers. So, yeah, there's that. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, really fun movie, as I've already said. I absolutely recommend it to anyone who hasn't watched it already. It's like, again, like I said, this is like a Star Wars movie that isn't a Star Wars movie, but it's also its own thing at the same time. So, okay, I've been rambling for the past, like, 5 minutes, so, yeah, like and subscribe, hit the bell, turn on notifications, that's what hitting the bell is for. Follow us on Twitch, Instagram, our Discord server, you can, join that if you want, and keep having the high ground. Bye.